So I've heard you loud and clear. Let's talk about the video I made 7 months ago that was titled "The Oilers Are Awful." I'm actually even gonna do a reaction to it. Now, it's and to be fair, I know people coming through don't look through the whole catalog, but I've made a lot of videos on the Oilers, like when they started to show slow improvement, when they made the coaching change. So it's not like I made this video a month ago, but I want to have some fun with it, go into the video and just kind of talk about how much things have changed over a course of 7 months. And in the Oilers, if they ultimately do win the Stanley Cup, I think it's one of the greatest turnarounds in all of sports history. But let's get right into it. The Edmonton Oilers look downright terrible right now. And yes, McDavid is currently out with an injury, but they were still not winning games with him there. Connor McDavid's the best player in the world, but with the sum of the parts around him, the Oilers just do not look good. And it's not like Draisaitl hasn't produced. He's got 11 points in 7 games played. Nugent Hopkins has 6 points in 7 games played. Zach Hyman has 7 points in 7 games played. But you do have a guy like Evander Kane who's underperforming and looks a little bit slower. So I'll say this, like very early in the season, I don't know if people, I imagine most Oiler fans remember, it was just, they did not look good. They didn't look good. They didn't look great. You did have some players, like the important players, produce a bit. Evander Kane, I thought he's had an okay season, right? And I think for what he gives you on this talented team, it's fine enough. But at this point in the season, they were kind of struggling with their 200-foot game, having poor defensive lapses, and we're not getting enough, if I recall correctly, in their bottom 6. Bottom 6 up front for the Oilers is complete dog shit. 0. So this is something I do. That's funny. So zeros across the board. Zeros. Holloway, Cloud, Brown, Connor Brown, who I thought looked great during this postseason run. I really like what he's brought forth. At this point, Adam Ernie and then Derek Ryan. It's just, they're fair criticisms. Now, did I imagine Zach Hyman looking like a god? Even though I spoke really positively of him in this video, but Zach Hyman, did I predict like the amount of goals he was going to score this season? Absolutely not. I think if any Oiler fans was honest, they're like, well, Zach Hyman's not going to just go drop his ridiculous number this season. But, it does benefit when you play with one of the best players, the best player in the NHL in Connor McDavid. But Zach Hyman, who I think gets a little bit, I think Zach Hyman's still a 25 to 35 goal scorer, even outside of Edmonton. Does he put up the same points? No, because you don't have a beast like McDavid feeding you. But I think Zach Hyman, to be fair to him, is still a good hockey player in his own right. Sorry, just tangent, zeros all across the board. You are not going to succeed in today's NHL if you at least don't get some type of production from your bottom 6. And don't get me started on the defense. There's pieces I like here. I like Ekholm, long stay there in Nashville. I think he can be a very good defenseman. Evan Bouchard is young, and I think he will eventually blossom into a solid top pairing guy. Really, when you look at the D-core, it's not great. Nurse, overpaid. Cody Ceci has been average, but overall, when you look at the defense, it's one of the reasons why this team is in the gutter. So, let me kind of go back to it where it shows the defense, okay? So, Ekholm, I've always thought positively of him. I think he's a good defenseman. Evan Bouchard, I even said in the video, very young, promising defenseman who I do think fits that top billing. And Darnell Nurse, I thought he's played well in the playoffs, but I still am going to stand on this argument. I'm not saying he's not a quality man in his own right now, but 9.25 is way too much for Darnell Nurse. I don't even think Oiler fans would disagree with what I'm saying there. And Cody Ceci, steady enough, but when you watch them at this point in the season, it wasn't great. It was not great. Under Woodcroft, it was not great. So when you're watching these games, you're like, man, this defense is really bad. But then it kind of goes to show you sometimes how underrated coaching is and a good system is. Because a lot of the same guys look far better under Knobloch than they ever did under the former head coach. Evan Bouchard is young, and I think he will eventually blossom into a solid top pairing guy. Really, when you look at the D-core, it's not great. Nurse, overpaid. Cody Ceci has been average, but overall, when you look at the defense, it's one of the reasons why this team is in the gutter. You need to at least have an average NHL D-core if you're going to be taken seriously as a contender. When Connor McDavid comes back, you could say, well, he'll fix all their problems, and yes, maybe he helps outscore some of the problems you have defensively. But when you get into the playoffs and it becomes far tighter, we've seen in the past, it's not enough to have Draisaitl and McDavid on the ice to overcome those issues. You need to have a solid team. This is a team sport. This is not an individual sport. If this was basketball, two superstars could possibly win you a championship. That's usually not how it works in hockey. And I think that point has been proven since the coaching change, where you having all these Oiler players buy into a 200-foot game. So game 6, for example, right, where the Oilers got outshot for the most part. I would say Skinner made some great saves. For the most part, though, they did keep the star players to the outside and kept the dangerous stuff to the outside. And what's impressed me the most during this playoff run is just how structured they have been. They'll let you take some shots, but most of the time, they're not going to be dangerous scoring area shots. And, you know, I'll probably eventually, I think, yeah, Jack Campbell was the backup at this point. No, he's the backup to Stuart Skinner. That's what it was kind of at this point in the season. But the goaltending's also been way better with Stuart Skinner. But the coaching has made a huge difference. A huge difference. Goaltending. Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell, well, not all on them, are atrocious. I mean, look at this number. So, like, I'm making this video an 846 save percentage. An 878 save percentage. At this point, nobody's like looking at this like, oh, that's really good numbers. Stuart Skinner has 4 games played, a 3.94 goals against average with an 846 save percentage, which hasn't been a good save percentage since the 1930s. Okay, so this is one thing, and I know you're probably going to get annoyed with all the pausing, but if you want to watch the original, it's linked down below, or just look into my channel. I'll just say, I've been the one guy last year giving Skinner lots of breaks, saying he's young and goaltenders don't hit their prime until they get a little bit older. I mean, when the Oilers, this season prior, Skinner struggled, I said Skinner could take another jump. Like, he's got a lot of talent to him that if he just gets his head right, he feels confident. I mean, he can come into his own. He's like, at this point in the video, only 24. Like, I've been one of the few people that have been like, and you can go into the back catalog to kind of really find that out for yourself. I've been in the minority of trying to give Stuart Skinner some time. Now, at times it will be frustrating because he'll let in some goals. Even during this playoff run, it's like, you kind of should have had that. But then you see him make these spectacular saves. Like, if Skinner could just fine-tune his games, I do believe he could be a plus starter, like a very, very good starter, maybe even all-star caliber if he keeps developing and becomes far more consistent and doesn't have those mental lapses. I've said that in the past. But Jack Campbell's not that much better with a 437 goals against average with an 878 save percentage. Both sub 900. Jack Campbell has the sole win on this season. Where does this get better? The Western Conference is no joke. You got some good talent. The Vegas Golden Knights are currently 7-0-1 with 15 points. They're looking primed to try to go back-to-back. The Vancouver Canucks, a team that a lot of people doubted, myself included due to the history with that organization, has looked great thus far to start the season. I'm going to put it very clearly. The Anaheim, used to be called Mighty Ducks, have looked better than the Edmonton Oilers thus far this season. Now, will this continue? I don't think so. When you have a player... All right. Key part in this video people like to gloss over. Will this continue? I don't think so. Now, the Oilers continue to struggle even a little bit after this until the coaching change. But there's just a lot of talent on paper, regardless if you want to call it quote-unquote top-heavy at the time. Yeah, you got McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, that's a luxury most teams do not have. And they have some good complementary pieces if the bottom six can figure it out, which, shocker, I mean, not shocker, but newsflash, they did figure it out. Like McDavid, he can help solve a lot of issues. But I can't believe this team will get out of the Western Conference if they do not at least make some addition on the back end. they're not good enough. And hell, I would say their bottom 6 needs to produce as well, and if that doesn't improve, maybe they're in the market of trying to get a middle 6 guy to help improve the offensive production. But yeah, which they kind of did with getting Corey Perry, and I know that whole situation that happened with Chicago, they did do that. They did bring in some additions to kind of bolster their roster. I like what they have done. I mean, it's weird because a lot of the things I complained about, they kind of adjusted as the season went on, and then they started playing better. The Edmonton Oilers are absolute dog shit right now, and it's inexcusable to be this bad, even with McDavid out. They got embarrassed in their first game of the season, 8-1 to the Vancouver Canucks. Then following that, they lost 4-3. They finally beat the Nashville Predators, and things were kind of looking like they were turning the corner, 6-1 win. But then they lose to the Flyers, 4-1, lose in overtime to the Jets, 3-2, get destroyed by the Minnesota Wild, 7-4, and then get shut out by the New York Rangers, 3-0. The Oilers are so bad defensively, they need to score 3 to 4 goals at least to win these games. That has to improve. And currently, with some of the offensive struggles you're seeing from the bottom 6, I don't think McDavid alone can fix all these issues. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you believe the Edmonton Oilers will be able to turn this around and become a proper Stanley Cup contender, or do you doubt their ability to go deep on a playoff run? I'm Captain Paul. I'll see you in the next one. So the age-old question, did the video age poorly? No. I don't think it did, because I was saying at that current time, they were not playing very good hockey, and there was just so many poor defensive breakdowns. But what did they do? They fixed it. Now, if I just said at that video that, like, oh, the Oilers are terrible and they'll never get right, they'll never be that good, they have all these holes and they're probably not going to make the playoffs, I could see a little bit more credence to people kind of dogging me for this take, but you know, even in the video, I'm like, they can improve. I don't imagine this to continue for a long stretch, even though after that video, they still did keep struggling. And I did make a follow-up video, I think a couple weeks after that, to kind of signify, like, something's not right here in the Edmonton Oiler land. You know, and this is the fun thing, because I'm kind of having fun with it. This is the fun thing, though, kind of going back into your older videos and, like, how a team was doing at that time, how well they were doing or how poor they were doing, and then kind of analyzing why they have proved so much. For me, the big thing was the coaching change and the style of play. Like, I know Knobloch's the head coach, but you brought in Paul Coffey, who really brought the best in this Oilers team. The defensemen have been playing extremely well. I think Darnell Nurse in this playoff run, I've already mentioned, has played steady. And I think Evan Bouchard has the capability to be an all-star level defenseman for a long time. I love what they have done defensively. I like what they're doing offensively. They have made some minor moves to improve their team. And just, you know, I think overall the Oilers have shocked me. They have shocked me. Like, if I was to time travel from the past to this current time, and I was going to say that the Oilers play good defensively, they're getting some good secondary help, Stuart Skinner is playing extremely well. While I probably wouldn't be extremely shocked, but I'll fully admit at that point in the season, it just wasn't looking great. But hats off, man. The Oilers really salvaged their season, and when they fully bought into Knobloch's system, they prospered. They really did prosper. And it kind of showcases, again, how valuable a proper head coach can be. You know, we've had some head coaches in various different sports that kind of have been ride-alongs, quote-unquote, that have just kind of ridden the coattails of extremely talented players. But the Oilers were struggling. You bring in Knobloch, you bring in some assistants to kind of fix things, and now this team is in the Stanley Cup Finals. It kind of proves the point that sometimes you just need a new voice in the room. And that's what it seemed like the Oilers needed. And they're going to have a heck of a fight against the Florida Panthers. I think this series should be pretty damn physical. But I think even if they don't win it, this year has been a massive success for the Oilers. But yeah, just want to have fun with this, make a reaction video to my own video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'll see you in the next one.